Hello everyone, come on and slam, and welcome to the jam. Blamo here. Now, a little bit ago, Team Fortress 2 Gold Rush was released on Steam, and seeing how I've somewhat become known as the Open Fortress guy, I'd figure I'll check out another source mod, just share some of my thoughts, because, oh boy, do I have some thoughts. Now, let me get this out of the way. I think the mod is fun, even if that almost exclusively has to do with the fact that this is pretty much just Team Fortress 2, and Team Fortress 2 is a fun game, which is oddly kind of my biggest issue with the whole project. I'll also say this, I do appreciate the cleaner art style. I'm not going to say that it's better or anything, because when I'm playing a multiplayer game, I do like to be reminded that I'm playing a multiplayer game, and the self-expression that comes with that territory. Especially as someone who primarily sticks with community servers whenever I play TF2. I've always found it very cool to have a distinct style for other people to identify you by. And with source mods like this, it kind of feels as if I'm just playing against bots. And I'd also imagine it runs better. I have somewhat of a beefy rig, relatively speaking, so I can't really comment. And that's pretty much everything positive I have to say about the project. Because my issue with all these projects that aim to evoke the past is that ultimately that sort of vision I feel is creatively bankrupt inherently. There's only so much you can take away from what interviews and blog posts do exist, on top of leaked assets and concept art. Otherwise, I feel that you have to rely on interpretation to fill in the blanks, which can especially be problematic for a project like Team Fortress 2 Classic, a project that's over a decade old, mind you, where developers have cycled in and out over the course of its inception. And each of those developers obviously will have their own interpretation of what the game should be. Something like the Admiralty Anchor, the Market Gardener equivalent in that mod, would have not been added to the game back in 2009. It's just way too inherently cartoony. At best, you end up with the project that misses the mark of invoking TF2's legacy, and at worst you end up with a source mod that ends up feeling shallow and giving me little reason to stick around once the initial luster wears off. Valve gave us a golden ticket by releasing the SDK, and what people are doing is repackaging the same game we've played for years, while also cutting out content in the process. And in the case of Gold Rush here, I wouldn't even necessarily say that it's a proper time capsule, if anything. Because you have weapons here like the Lock and Load, which was added all the way back in the Australian Christmas update in December 2010, which also gave us the Crusader's crossbow. And regardless of how you feel about the crossbow itself, it's hard to deny that its inclusion is ultimately a net positive for the game. Not just for people who actually play Medic, but for everyone else as well.
Oh, don't do that. Oh no.
And yet, instead, we still have items like the Girardi, the pre-nerf Sandman. I just fail to see how these items in particular are integral to the very identity, the very essence of Team Fortress 2. Really, with how much this mod just cherry picks everything, it comes across less so as a celebration of TF2 and where it came from, and more so as just wishing that things turned out differently. It's just so incredibly cynical, and I feel that this is made even more obvious once you read the Steam store page for this mod. It's subtle, but the cynicism is there. And I'm just gonna say it right here, right now. It all comes across as this glorified roleplay for those who weren't actually there during TF2's golden age, whatever that means at this point. And look, I know that I'm talking shit about a free mod at the end of the day, that people went out of their way to, make and publish, right? But I also find it impossible to separate this project from certain community trends that I've been seeing crop up within the TF2 source modding community especially, whether you've played Team Fortress 2 Classic or this mod in particular, a zeitgeist if you will. That being just how the audience for these kind of mods, both developers and players alike, seemingly refuse to acknowledge the possibility that there's just simply burning out. And what most people usually do is they take a break, if not they stop playing the game entirely. And yet for whatever reason, a select few proceed to delude themselves into thinking that the game itself has gotten worse, that it's been mishandled, even though it's been almost a decade since Jungle Inferno. so it's not like that even fucking matters at this point. Aside from the bot crisis, the game itself hasn't been negatively impacted. And I'm not going to claim that this game, as it stands now, is perfect. Far from it, actually. But if I indeed was burning out of Team Fortress 2, I would much rather play something along the likes of Open Fortress, a project that actually tries to stand on its own, rather than appealing to a nostalgia that I have personally never experienced. Even something as simple and otherwise meaningless as how the Nemesis system is implemented is surprisingly emblematic as just how
the developers
for these mods don't understand what makes TF2 fun and good and cool. Because they're not just there to establish personal relations between individual players, but to also help everyone else identify certain enemies that are more of a threat than others. Whether that be the scout top fragging on the server, or the medic who's healing up his team and his uber pushes are perfectly timed. That implicit communication is especially important in a game that is otherwise meant to be treated as a single-player multiplayer experience, while still being focused on teams. The fact that I can't count the number of dominations someone has on the scoreboard is either an oversight or a deliberate design choice made so people like Zesty Jesus don't have an infantile tantrum whenever they see that the enemy scout has 5 or more dominations on the scoreboard, before proceeding to call them a sweat.
Can we just kick him from the server? Get rid of him! I can't have fucking fun!
Zesty!
Plat level scout is fucking everyone!
Zesty, don't get mad at it. Don't get mad.
So no, I can't call this a purist effort because of what's been added and what's absent. Nor can I call it a proper tribute because its understanding of the game is surface level at best. Like it or not, there's a reason why games change over time, and I'm not just talking about content updates, but also player mentality as well. No matter the weapons and the maps that you cut from the game, that still won't be enough to recapture that same essence that the game once had at launch. Because as charming as old school TF2 clips are, I feel like the thing that people often forget is that all of that took place before the advent of platforms such as Discord, before many players actively started to get better and better at the game, thus deepening their understanding of why we stuck with this game for so many years. It's also hard to deny that many of these new weapons, maps, and cosmetics have allowed many players to enjoy the game in new and exciting ways. You certainly can't just capture the essence of the game just through a few appealing screenshots on the Steam store page. Simply put, modern TF2 just has more going for it at the end of the day, and I'm looking forward to more projects that actually offer something new, at least if mods such as these can't even be accurate to their very namesake. Don't really have much more to add, feel free to agree or disagree. Until next time.